welcome to Costly Conversations. I'm super excited because we have the one and only Rhonda Ezell with us tonight. How are you doing?
I am good, Aaron. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for coming on. But without further ado, we do want to just remind everybody to please go ahead, check out the links down below because there's a few things in there you got to check out. First of all, it's the Keep It Costly tees. Of course, it's a message for all those out there to keep those deep, personal, costly conversations that really push us forward just as a human race. So check those out. And of course, join the Patreon because we have a lot of great conversations in the private Discord channel, and you definitely want to be a part of those. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get back to the conversation with the one and only Rhonda Ezell, the winner of not just one, but 2 cases against the city of Chicago to further gun rights. Somebody who, we'll talk about this, has been referenced in like very serious historical even cases for gun rights for all Americans, not just a particular group, not just a particular city. So let's talk about that. Well, before we get into the nitty gritty, Rhonda, like people, if they Google you, they'll see like, okay, Rhonda Ezell, Chicago Guns Matter, very similar naming to Black Guns Matter. Who came first, chicken or the egg? I think it was you. You have to let me know.
We came first within fighting for the rights and the litigation and things like that. But we're not in competition with anyone. I love March to Right. Yeah. It's like a son to me. So it's not about who came first here. We're all in the same fight together.
That's what I wanted to hear. That's great because really the fight for the Second Amendment, I think it's distorted and kind of screwed up when we got the Hunters and Coleon Noir, who's super famous in the 2A fight in regards to just putting out content and letting people know kind of what's happening. He put out a video talking about like hunters and just concealed carry guys and the spec op type dudes, tactical bros, and they're all arguing at a table and not kind of focusing on the serious
the issue
on the issue at hand
versus personally trying to identify what the Second Amendment meant to them. So I saw that, and that was pretty cool. Noir is another one that I love in this industry. We've done projects together and things like that. So absolutely, I saw that. That was cool.
Yeah, and it was funny, not to talk too much about Coleon, but he hasn't done skits in a while. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I felt like it was timely because, you know, the work that you do, unfortunately, it's not sexy per se. It's like, oh, okay, we're going to sit in court for 10 hours or we're going to go to DC and sit down before, you know, all these people who are trying to get you to slip up for several hours. And, you know, at the end of the day, they're asking trick questions and it's like, I'm done. Like, and so for those who have been keeping up with the conversations with those like Antonia and for those like Diana Muller, you know, and obviously like yourself, those trips, those situations, they're difficult. Can we talk about your work and kind of the stuff that maybe people don't pay attention to just because they either don't know or it's just not the exciting high speed Bill drill type stuff?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, the ladies that you mentioned, Diana Muller and Antonia Okafor, they are beautiful ladies. I love them as well. And we are all great friends. What we do here, I'm Rhonda Ezell, president and co-founder of Chicago Guns Matter, lead plaintiff in Ezell versus City of Chicago. What we do is fight on the forefront in litigation. Now, a lot of people always ask me, well, why don't you give classes and courses? Everyone has a lane in this fight. You don't have to do everything to be involved. I choose not to. What I choose to do, a lot of people can't do. Everybody isn't strong enough to put their life on the line, the life of their loved ones on the line, to fight against crooked politicians in litigation. So when you're doing these cases and you're becoming plaintiffs and you're suing the political powers that be, you have to give up a ton of information, right? These people know everything about you. And once you strike a chord with them, you deal them this blow, they hate you. They put an X on your back. So we are the people that say, hey, we're not going to take it. We're here to fight for freedom for every American. We're not going to allow you to trample over our rights. And at the end of the day, if it wasn't from the work that we do as plaintiffs, because the Second Amendment organizations that are paying for these cases and bringing on the litigation, without the I want to say, without everyone working together, combining their work, there would be no training for a class or a course, because the government will be stepping on our rights. We wouldn't have the ability to defend ourselves. There won't be any freedoms. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We've seen it in other countries.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Canada just did that. They just banned everything. Mm-hmm. So here in America, we're not going to do that. And if you take a look at the work we've done at Chicago Guns Matter, and I want to say this so that people understand, because there seems to be this myth about firearm ownership in Chicago. You see what I'm saying? We carry every day. The state of Illinois was the last state to get a form of concealed carry in the nation. And we went from 0 firearm ownership to shall issue concealed carry. That's huge. A lot of states still dragging their citizens through the court system about owning a firearm, what type of firearms they can have. So what we do is we take the slack up and put the weight of the world on our shoulders to fight this corrupt system that hates our freedoms here in America. And we're not looked upon as the good guys. You know, these people walk the halls of Congress, or they're in their offices in their local municipalities or downstate, and they're just constantly putting forth measures that violates your right to self-defense, but yet them and their family are well protected. So we're the ones that say, yeah, I'll step up to the plate. I'll sue this city. I'll sue this state, because I know that I'm responsible for my own safety. I'm my own first responder. They don't want to see that. They can't handle that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you literally putting yourself out there, because in reality, a lot of us, unless you literally put your face online, there's a lot of avatars per se, guys who they post a picture of a gun that literally never show their face. And I have nothing against those guys. I think, you know, share what you love, but they get to live behind an avatar and an IP address, and that's about it. Like, you know, no, like you got to do a lot of work to find these guys, and they're not necessarily putting themselves in a position to have a corrupt politician maybe try to do things to make your life difficult, at the very least. And beyond that, even potentially expose yourself to some of the crazy people who are more anti-gun and believe that you are the problem potentially, and who may send you a letter or an email or a DM literally threatening your life. And that's the light stuff. I mean, God forbid you have to go to a courthouse and they're outside the courthouse protesting and looking at
Absolutely.
you and watching where you're going. And I'm not saying like, okay, well, you stand up one time and you got death threats, but it can lead to that, especially if you become a high profile person.
Absolutely. Because you have to understand, when people put Chicago under a microscope, the first thing they say is, oh, they have these tough gun laws and you can't carry a gun there. What they fail to realize is that in our organization alone, when we just got that third Supreme Court victory, that New York State rifle and pistol case that was won in New York, that was the latest case that just been won at the Supreme Court level. They only took 3. The one was the Heller versus DC. The second was McDonald versus Chicago. And this is the third, New York State rifle and pistol v. Bruin case. 3 of the cases from our organization, were cited in that victory. We're not just fighting for gun rights in the city of Chicago or the state of Illinois. We're fighting for freedoms for all Americans. This is what people fail to understand. If people take the time to go through some of these cases, I have a book. Matter of fact, I have a book here that I keep with roughly, not all, because I can't keep up with everything, but just some of the cases where my case was cited in
Mm.
those victories as well. But there are tons of cases. If you open them and read them, you will see McDonald versus Chicago cited, Ezell versus Chicago cited, Ezell 2 versus the city of Chicago cited, Moore versus Madigan, and Shepard versus Madigan cited in these cases. It doesn't matter what state they're from. What matters is the work that we've previously done has set a precedent of how the Second Amendment is interpreted in a court of law. These are facts. And these are the things that people miss.
Yeah. No, that's huge, especially when you consider like what you just said. And I think it may have gone over somebody's head. So let's just reiterate it. The Supreme Court, the highest court in all the land, the United States of America, one of the, if not the most powerful country in the world, referenced a court case that you made happen, essentially, that you put your face on it and said like, hey, yeah, we see where basically the precedent was set, not some unprecedented thing. We see where these things are already happening. Courts have already ruled in favor of these things. It's already been decided, hey, this is the way things should go. Let's go ahead and make laws for everybody, or strike down laws that are in fact impacting many, many Americans, because we see that precedent has already been set. We've already had this case, and maybe you could say it more eloquently than I, but
no, that's exactly how it should be broken down. Because when people don't interpret a conversation, you know they're not interpreting litigation, because the average person isn't an attorney. So they don't really understand, they don't really read all of that information. Mm-hmm. And so when cases are cited in other cases, this let you know that, hey, this case has already been tried and won in a court of law. History has been made. This is the precedent that has been set with this case, with said case, like the Heller case, the McDonald versus Chicago case, the Ezell versus Chicago case, and so on and so forth. And so when, again, it goes over people's heads, because I remember one time in Virginia where Northern did something, and then they were protesting, and then a lawsuit was filed, and our case was cited in there. Again, I'm going to go to the book because it's too much to look through. And I posted about it. I said, "You're welcome, Virginia," so on and so forth. And someone said, what does Chicago have to do with this? And I just said, reading is fundamental. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you go open the case up and read it, instead of just following pictures and doing likes and clicks on social media, just to say you did something, go and educate yourself. It's okay. It's okay. Because we've set a precedent. We've made history in the United States of America. I have made history in the United States of America. I'm very humble about those things. Mm-hmm. It's not something that I brag about, but it's something that I won't let go over my head, because I know we've put in the work.
Yeah.
But yet our city gets the most backlash for being, the most dangerous place in the world, and you can't have a gun there. And I look at all of these YouTubers. Sometimes they do their little podcast and they badger Chicago, and in the same breath, they're praising the latest Supreme Court victory. Make it make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but it's okay. I'm
say,
used to it.
No, I would say you kind of have to grow thick skin when it comes to that. But I would say I wonder if people are still frustrated with the politicians who don't get it, who are continuously pushing and basically in defiance of that precedent that was set with the concept of the Second Amendment, of the idea that it shall not be infringed. And they're just saying, like, these guys, because they still don't get it.
They don't get it because what they did was they went, what the Bruin decision did was, it said text, history, and something else that is set by now. They kind of getting away from the two-step test, and that's fine. But people still don't understand that the fight before that fight is the important fight, because that's what solidifies the case to be won in the first place, right? Tradition, text, and history is what the new precedent is from the Bruin case.
I do want to ask you a question about your
absolutely.
two-step, because we've talked before, and you mentioned that you created a two-step system for interpreting the Second Amendment. Explain that to the listeners, if you would.
Well, in Cantor versus Barr, they were doing a case where an individual was being charged with a nonviolent felony. And they were trying to figure out, did that individual lose the right to self-defense? And so that's where they came in to figure out, what was what. Mm-hmm. Because they decided that they didn't think that the person worked at the post office because he lost his job and he worked at a federal place, that he also deserved to lose his rights to self-defense or Second Amendment rights. And so that's how they went to write it up, to figure out what precedent needs to be set here before we can just simply say, oh, you have a felony on your record, you don't deserve to have your rights.
Right. And that's actually been a big deal, especially, and I think even...
And it makes sense. It makes sense because if you're at the Postal Service mm-hmm. and you get mad and you get caught because you were lazy on the job and you dumped a bag of mail, that's federal property.
Right.
All right. Now you've destroyed that. That's a federal crime.
That is a federal crime.
But did you kill your boss? Like, right. Did you shoot the place up and kill your coworkers mm-hmm. to the point where, this person is a danger to society and they no longer should have access to a firearm?
Right.
And so these are the things that they were trying to interpret at the time. And so I agree that if you have a nonviolent felon, that you should not lose your right to self-defense.
Right.
Because you had an argument at work, you work for the federal government, and you slam your hand on the table and break the glass, and you get fired and you storm out the door. Does that require you, just because it was a felony, you work for the government and they charge you with that, should you lose your rights? Absolutely not. We have to watch when they pick and choose and cherry pick what they want to do, because I've seen them just recently, as in the last few years, go to the jail system and register people to vote.
Yeah.
When it was applicable for them.
Mm-hmm.
And now these same people can do their time and get out of jail and still won't have the right to self-defense. Even after you've went there, signed them up to vote, got them to vote for you, or told them whatever you wanted them to believe, and they pushed that little button. Now they're home and they don't have any rights. It doesn't make sense to me, but this is politics.
And
these are the things that people have to be aware of, because it only fits when it works for them.
Right. And that's absolutely correct, in the sense that they're, which rights will we restore? It's been a big question for the last few years, and you're seeing some stuff in Florida come out where it's like, the people with felonies on their record, their voting rights are being restored. Okay, well, the question comes into play is, even with the gun rights, if you are released from prison, have you served your time? If you've served your time, should you be allowed to be made whole again?
I would say yes. Because if you paid your debt to society,
right.
What are you holding over your head? I mean, I thought the prison time was the thing, right? If you get convicted of something, are they going to dangle that over your head for life and say, yeah, remember that day you robbed that cab driver? Let's think about that, because even here in our state right now, we're dealing with something worse than that. We're dealing with something that was signed into law last year, which will become law come January, which is the Safety Act, right? People will not be held in custody after committing certain heinous crimes, burglaries, rapes, attempted sexual assault, threatening a public official, burglary, things like that. So they may commit that crime, but when they go to court, it's going to be up to the judge to decide whether or not they think that individual is going to flee the country, not whether or not they committed the crime. And so this is another thing that we know, where this is a bill just for the criminals, to be honest, because this does nothing to for the safety of Illinoisans. It's nothing for the people of the state of Illinois. Nothing good is going to come to this because the criminals are going to continue to get a slap on the wrist to go out and do the same thing over and over again. But it's up to us. It's our responsibility to protect ourselves and our loved ones.
No, you're correct in the sense that you're your own first responder. You have to be able to protect yourself with the best means possible. And when those rights in basically the American birthright, when that's neutered, what do you have? When you have, and there was this, my wife just sent me something the other day, said this young lady went to the CVS, got out of her car, and before she realized there's this guy who's half naked, a couple feet from her, just staring at her. And she runs into the CVS, and this guy follows her in, is, lurking around, leaves the store. Wow. And she's like, should I, oh man, is there a man in here that can escort me to my car? The guy was hiding out behind her car, waiting for her to come back. And what the girl on social media was saying is like, don't be afraid to ask for help. And I'm like, well, that too, but also what do you have with you? What do you keep on your person?
What is your level of defense?
Right.
Less lethal force. We have to think about less lethal force.
We have to think about that too.
It's one thing that he's out there naked or lurking and so on and so forth, but he has yet to attack you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So you don't know if he wants to beg for money, if he's just hungry. He's a weirdo for sure. Oh, yeah. He's a weirdo for sure.
Right.
But, you want to carry less lethal force. You know what I'm saying? Maybe some pepper spray, a stun gun or something of that nature. But, these are things that you would learn along the lines if you start to go and do some firearm safety training and education.
But I almost feel like because people aren't thinking of, zero is, condition white. We're completely oblivious to the fact that people hurt people. And then 60 is, hey, I carry a firearm. I don't want to use it, but I am prepared to defend my life and the life of my loved ones. I feel like just because 60 has been removed, most people live at zero. Which is
a lot of people live at zero.
Yeah.
A lot of people live at zero. And it's crazy because I've added 2 color codes to this Jeff Cooper color code on my own, right? Because I'm in Chicago. So I live in a different color code than the average person.
Right.
I've seen people in dingy white, because that means they don't have a clue. They're oblivious to their surroundings, right? Mm-hmm. These are the people are way below the white color code spectrum because they don't think things will happen to them or this won't happen in our neighborhood. They don't have a clue. Me, you said that code orange is up here. I'm in burnt orange. They have switches in Chicago.
Yeah.
You don't really stand a chance against the bad guy, right?
No.
So at the end of the day, you're right. When people aren't paying attention to their surroundings, they don't understand that this is a crazy world. We saw it happen 2 years ago with the George Floyd situation. Mm-hmm. They allowed this country to be destroyed. Yeah. And it's going to happen again in November. Watch what I tell you. Watch what I tell you.
Not looking forward to it.
It's going to happen again. And it's unfortunate that 2 years ago, or however many years it's been since that situation, they allowed these people to burn down cities, rob, loot, steal, kill, so on and so forth, by telling these people to go out and do these things and going as far as getting these people out of jail. So they had a hand in it.
That was very interesting. Big name politicians paying for people's bail when people getting caught up on simple marijuana charges and are serving basically life sentences, pretty much.
Don't get me started on that. I mean, we have people that are in the penitentiary right now on charges of marijuana charges, and yet the government have legalized the marijuana industry, and they're making billions of dollars with the B. My state have made over $2 billion, right? And the only thing that they gave the Black community was, we will expunge your record. So they got an expungement on a local level, not even on a federal level.
Right.
But not one Black person got a license to open a marijuana dispensary. That's the sad part. And I spoke about that. 1,000 times over. Because in politics, you have to pay attention and broaden the spectrum. Not just say, oh, I'm just about guns. I'm a one
issue. Mm-hmm.
one issue voter, right? And you just can't say that I'm a one issue voter. You have to have your eyes open, because there's a lot of things around you that affect you. Yeah. Because now that it's legalized marijuana, okay, these people don't have to hide to go get high anymore, right? Or to buy their merchandise. So what does that say about needing money for marijuana?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's fine. I don't smoke. I don't drink. This is what I do. Water. Nevertheless, we were left out in the way we're accounted when it comes down to business, money, jobs, opportunity. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We got none of that. What we got was lied to, as we always has been for the last 50 years.
Right.
I don't know when we as a community will wake up and vote different. I'm not trying to tell anyone what political party to be in or what political party is better than the other, but you should be smart enough to know that if you've been putting your hand on a hot fire and you continuously getting burned, you might want to do something different.
I wonder if people are checking their box, punching the little keys, putting their vote in, and then just kind of letting their eyes glaze over, letting several years go by, and then, they see something catchy on TV and, oh, okay, I guess it's time to vote again. And I'm not saying that people aren't capable of knowing what's happening, but I wonder if life is, oftentimes we're just in survival mode to the point where we can't even pay attention to what's seriously important, how we can benefit ourselves. I wonder. I could be wrong.
The cover is being pulled over the eyes for sure.
Yeah.
Right about now. And if you've been on this planet long enough, you should be able to kind of pick up on some of these things. But everybody doesn't follow the political arena. They don't follow or understand who their legislatures are. They've never called their offices. They never went down to their state or local offices. They never went to DC to speak with them, to voice their opinion on whatever it is their agenda is that they believe in. So first you have to have an agenda. And you can take those to your elected officials and say, hey, I don't like this. I don't support this, or this is what I believe in. This is what I support, or I voted for you because you brought this to the table and I thought that it was solid and it's not. So, but you have to, reach out to them, email them, call them, go to their offices and give them that input. But a lot of people don't do that, So I don't know where I can't say it got lost along the way, because the average person isn't into politics.
Well, a lot
they
of
just follow the status quo of their family history. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And they vote that same way until they get grown and get old enough and have their own families and their own beliefs, and they start paying taxes and understanding the system. That's when change began.
That's very true. And I think the stigma within the family system to vote for certain people, to go vote. Somebody can say, I hate politics, I don't get involved. But when it comes to vote time, parents pressure in, grandparents pressure in, aunties, did you vote? Did you vote? Did you vote? You better not vote for that. And then they go on and on and on. and now we're continuously putting people in office. And I'm giving one scenario. There's a million ways it plays out. But now we still have certain people in office who are not doing things that actually benefit you or people that you love, whether it's a community, a Black community, your city as a whole, the United States of America as a whole, whatever your situation is. I do feel like I know you need to be at least informed about what this person that you're telling to be in charge cares about, what they say they're going to do. Just pay attention to that. They'll tell you.
Absolutely. One thing is for certain is, as much as people talk about the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution, people don't even understand what it is. And I said that to say this. If you don't vote in terms of protecting that right, you lose every other right and all of the rest of your freedoms. There will be no podcasting and talking and saying what you want freely, because we know other countries where their women can't even speak. Right? So we're on the Right now, we're in World War III. Whether people understand it or not, we've been in it 2 years ago when we were attacked by China with the coronavirus. But here we are giving assistance to Ukraine to fight Russia. And that's something that also went over a lot of people's head, because this is our president of the United States of America funneling cash through Ukraine because of the things his son did when he was working over there. And because we're still paying Russia to broker a deal with Iran for oil. That's not going to happen. But these are the things that the people don't understand. The United States right now is paying funds to Ukraine, who has hired ISIS and Al-Qaeda fighters to fight for them. Make it make sense.
I hadn't heard about
These
that.
are the things that people see. That's that in-depthness.
Yeah.
When you start to pay attention to the political aspect of things. Remember, we had United States of American diplomats going over in the middle of Ukraine, walking the streets for photo ops, telling you that Russia is dropping bombs on Ukraine. If this isn't an all-out war, why are we visiting there? Why?
I think
but it has
is so
gotten
important to
serious
question
now.
the narrative.
It's gotten serious now. And so we're going to see a lot of more things happen, because once China attacks Taiwan, all hell is going to break loose.
Yeah.
And that's where it goes back to that vote to protect that Second Amendment right that protects every other right in the United States Constitution. We are the only free country in the world. We're the last free country in the world. They don't like that. And if they can strip us of that freedom, then China and Russia will take over America with the rest of whatever they taken over.
Yeah.
Because we have the weakest president in American history in office right here, right now, today.
And those quite facts. Senile. Speaking of rights, I think it is super important to remember that even freedom of speech, you go just a little bit east of here, you go over to Europe and the UK, and if you say the wrong thing, people can easily sue you for libel. Your freedom of speech is so soft in the UK. Just if you pay attention to any news story from there, it's like, oh, this guy got sued for this. Someone was arrested for saying something disrespectful online. It's happened.
Right.
Like, oh, you're basically it's like a disturbing the peace. You can get
when
arrested.
They come to your house, that's insane.
Right. I told somebody that they were stupid and ugly. Like, come on, man. Like,
it's insane. Ding dong. Yes, we're here about what you wrote on Twitter and what you wrote on Facebook.
Right. Now it can't happen yet, but imagine you get so soft. And unfortunately, the culture is really shifting to the point where definitions, we talked about this with young woman, Rhonda Mary. And
I love her too. She's my buddy.
She's fantastic. She goes hard, but she basically said you have to watch definitions, because people are saying things like your words are violence. Your words are literally violence. And if the public sentiment shifts entirely to believe that is the case, what's to say, like, okay, the First Amendment, it cannot be absolute. We have to, and they said that about the Second. And they shifted around, and say, okay, well, if you say something that's truly offensive and we all decide it's offensive, we got to come get you. You're too
Here's
dangerous.
The thing. They've pulled this trick before. They say these things over and over again to mentally manipulate the general public to believe these things. They know that they're not facts. Again, if you believe those things, that's how they break into something. But again, here in America, we have over 400 million guns in America. It's not going to happen. America was built on violence.
Yeah.
We went to war to create this country.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're going to let a senile president give it away just because his son was in bed with the Chinese and then everybody else.
literally senile. My man was walking away. I was talking about that with my barber, with my barber today. It's embarrassing, and unfortunately, like we saw where he was like, Jackie, are you here? Jackie's been dead for 5 months.
Absolutely.
Jackie's been dead, and I'm not here to just bag on the president, but
I'm not.
golly,
I'm not. But it's at this point, it's elderly abuse.
it is
It's
abusive.
elderly abuse because if you've been watching and you understand politics, he's clearly not running the country. He's been in politics for over 47 years. He's done nothing. He was the vice president as well. And at this point, let me make it very clear. You can't tell me that he got 80 million votes, the most votes in American history for a president.
It is a lot of votes.
That's a lie. He couldn't even get 100 people to come to an event. At the end of the day, though, here we are.
We are here.
The same person you want me to believe that 80 million Americans voted for can't even speak in the camera and walk off the stage in the right direction.
It is scary.
That's why we fight as hard as we fight to preserve our freedoms, because we know that the corruption that exists in this administration is detrimental to the freedom of this country. There's no way that we should be giving billions and billions and billions of dollars to someone that's not even in the United Nations. Right? That's their fight. That's their battle. Not only giving money, we're giving assistance with military arsenals, so to speak, whatever they need. They'll tell us on the surface, oh, we gave them this, this, and this. Who knows what they're really sending over there? Because you have to remember, they had nothing. When it was time, here, follow me here. This is one of those countries where you couldn't own a gun. What happened when Russia came there? They forced everybody 18 years and older to stay and fight. And those were their civilians that they would put out there to fight, who didn't own a gun, never seen a gun, did not know how to operate a firearm, but yet and still they were made to stay in Ukraine and fight a war. That should tell everybody in America and around this planet, never give up your arms, because the bad guy in the government will be the only people with firearms, and you're going to end up dead. But we just saw Ukraine have to pick up arms and fight Russia because they didn't have any weapons. They didn't have anybody to help fight, because they had already agreed to give that away a long time ago with their nukes.
You know, I think it is really interesting that people are in two camps. People either believe that, oh, they'll never come for your guns, and people believe that, oh, the government is benevolent, which is laughable. I could barely get the words out of my mouth just now. And that, you know, bad things just can't happen. It would never happen here. We look at China, which is a civilized country for the most part. Wink, wink, nod, nod. And it's like, if you do something wrong, they can come get you. Back when they had the one-child policy, oh, you had more than one? Sterilized. You're not gonna have more than one kid again. Come on.
China is the most brutal country in the world.
Yeah.
Because
I barely touched
the way that they treat those people are like machines. Like, they have mentally drilled in their heads, you take one step, take another step, turn right, turn left at our demand. Because they have the AI system in place, the artificial intelligence in place. Every lick of those people's lives is recorded. And you have to have a great credit score to even partake. You don't have a high credit score, you don't get an iPhone, a cell phone, or whatever it is. You don't have a phone, you can't scan your life, and you can't go anywhere. You live in a box.
I mean,
but everything you do is dictated by the China government, the CCP.
Yeah, and even because people say, "Oh, that's China. That's an extreme example. That's over there." Okay, well, just go a little bit south of here, Venezuela. Craziest things happening.
Same thing.
Same thing.
Venezuela, Cuba, France,
Different technology. They
Germany.
don't have the same stuff, but you start to look at countries that have stripped the people of their arms.
Absolutely.
You don't have to go
And that's
50.
all
You
of
don't
them.
have to go
Canada
100
just
years in the
did.
past. Go to
Absolutely.
Canada, and even in Canada, I mean, I'm not trying to say like, doomsday stuff, but I think it's really obvious that if you give up the fight, and unfortunately the fight isn't sexy, the fight is the hard work that people like yourself have done. If you give up the fight, they can do kind of whatever they want. If they feel like no
Right.
one's going to say no, they can freeze your
Oh my
finances.
God, we saw them do that. We
Right.
saw them do that with the truckers.
And it's like something out of Star Wars. It's like the Emperor is like, hey,
It's
give me emergency
unbelievable because
powers.
I don't believe the American people, the American patriotic, hard-working, hard-loving Americans is going to stand for that. I think the average person is willing to put it and lay it all on the line and fight for their free country because it's not going to, we're not going to just lie down and let people just trample over us and then we're back into slavery. Like that's not how this is going to play out.
Nah, too many
You
dogs
know
in
what I'm
here.
saying? Because it's not for one said group of people, it's for the entire country,
Right.
right? And if you think about it, when I saw Canada pull their little stunt last week or whenever it was, the first thing I thought was, if anybody really try to invade America, which be stupid, they will cut through Canada and cross the little bridge to Detroit. Like we need to destroy that bridge first.
Mm-hmm.
Keep them out of America. But you don't get to disarm your entire populace if you're not tyrannical.
No.
You see what I'm saying? They can't govern unless they disarm their people. Like that doesn't make sense to me. You don't trust the very people that work hard to pay taxes in your country to be responsible gun owners? This is insane. These are the things that we fight for. That's why you see a lot of cases that are contested in America. New York, for example, they continue to try to disrespect the New York State Rifle and Pistol decision. And so I don't think it's going to take another 10 years for the Supreme Court to actually really put their foot on the necks of gun grabbers. I don't think they're going to wait that long because they've already made it clear. And we have seen several cases where things have been changed. But for some reason, New York and California continues to play games. And they're just going to find out the hard way. But that's why it's important for us to continue to fight.
I have two questions. One regarding the general populace's anti-gun sentiment. But before we get into that, I do want to know, we've talked about fighting, going to court. Who funded your cases?
The Second Amendment Foundation. The Second Amendment Foundation funded our cases. They funded the Heller case, the McDonald versus Chicago case, the Ezell case, the Madigan Moore case, and the Shepard Moore case, because we all had the same attorneys. We all had the same.
That's attorneys. Interesting.
And so again, it's strategically timing. You don't just say, I'm going to sue someone. Just like they strategically do what they do, we have to be just as smart and as eager to make sure that when we do something, it's the right time. And not that we're just doing something to rush into things, because it has to make sense. When the Supreme Court victory was won with the Heller case, the McDonald case was filed immediately right after that. So that was the precedent set with the Heller case, brought on the Supreme Court case in Chicago for the right to own a gun, because Mr. Heller just won the right to own a gun in D.C. right? And so now we have another Supreme Court victory for the right to own a gun in Chicago. So let's not stop at just owning a gun in Chicago, because now that we can own a gun, I just happen to have been the individual who had just got off of life support, learned how to walk again, saw this on the news, and was like, oh my God, I had a couple of situations with someone trying to break into my home. I'm going to get me this license here that's needed, but I needed the information to see what it was. Signed up for the class, boom. Went through a whole lot of rigmarole, and then East versus Chicago was born. That's how you go from, okay, now we fought for the right to own a gun. But then the city of Chicago came with shenanigans. You can't take it outside. You can't go to your garage. You can't go on your porch. Don't go in your hallway. They were angry. But how do we extend that right outside the home? Oh, here we have a woman that's disabled, that has lost her health, that's learned how to walk again, got off life support. She wants to sue the city of Chicago for the right to own gun ranges. We did that. Winning the right to build gun ranges also restored the rights to go. Nope, let me say that again. Winning the right to build gun ranges in the city of Chicago established the gun rights outside of the home as well, because now if there's a gun range built, you're able to take that firearm to that range. Because with the McDonald case, they were like, no, you can't go anywhere. Don't go to your front. It was weird. They were really mad that the case had been won. And so we just came after that. And then you don't stop at, okay, if we could build the gun ranges, what's next? Concealed carry. Because now you can have the gun in the home. You can go train with the gun. You got to want to do more than have a gun inside the house, because the criminal element is going to be everywhere in the world, right?
Right.
And then we had concealed carry cases filed, and then we won those cases. And so that, like I say, timing is everything when you file these lawsuits. You don't go, we won the right to have a gun in the home, but you want to do a concealed carry first, and then you double back and say, oh, well, let's do, you know what I'm saying? It makes sense when you prioritize what order you want to take a case. Because now we have a case going where in Chicago, they're suing for carry on mass transit. And that's a good one, because it's a lot of violence on the transit system. And there's nothing they can do about it. They're not stopping the criminal element, so on and so forth. The bad guy has his guns, the bad guy has his knife, whatever they want to do or whatever they carry to commit these violent crimes on a daily basis. It's time out for that. Something has to change. And so we believe it's time to carry on mass transit. We've been thought that it's been that time, but this again may be the proper timing for that based on that Bruin decision. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So everything happens for a reason, So, but we have to stay relevant in these cases. We have to keep our eyes open. We have to continue to find people that are willing to take a stand and fight against the corruption in their cities, in their states, and like you say, vote some of these corrupt people out of office. Stop giving them your vote if they don't support anything that you support.
Yeah, I forget who it is who told me this, but somebody said it, like 4 out of the last several, it was maybe 5 governors in Chicago have been arrested.
No, locked in jail, not arrested.
Locked up.
Penitentiary.
Sent to the pen.
The previous one,
insane,
before this one, was in the penitentiary for about, I want to say 7 or 8 years. But the one that governor right now was caught on FBI wiretap doing illegal activities with the one that was in jail. You follow me?
This is insane. And these are the people you have to fight.
The last 4 of my 5 aldermen were in jail.
That's crazy. That is. And these are the people that you basically are dictating to you and ensuring and enforcing these unconstitutional laws, to say the least.
Absolutely.
To say the least. Yet they can't be bothered to follow simple laws that are for
It,
everyone.
it,
Rules for thee, not for me, of
absolutely,
course.
it's insane. It's insane. I mean, we have a mayor here who had the
Mm.
opportunity to be uh, a great mayor and for a long time, but she bit the bullet and she went with the anti-gunners, and she's getting this Bloomberg money and all this anti-gun
Bloomberg's got the
rhetoric
cash.
that's being spewed
Mm.
about. It's insane, and all the violence that's
Yeah,
taking place and nothing's being done. I mean,
I
it's
want
a
to talk
headache.
about that.
It's a headache. You see these things every day. You know that the numbers they speak for themselves, and they just lie to you all day long. But when it's time to vote,
Mm-hmm.
they have these flashy, fancy commercials and oh, vote for me, and 700 people just got murdered. 3,000 people were shot. I mean, what are we doing here? You know what I'm saying? And so
Right.
that's where I tell the people to wake up, because one thing is for certain: they're going to lie to you, and they're going to put the blame on the tool. They're going to call for gun control instead of holding criminals accountable for their actions. But it's much easier to blame
Mm-hmm.
the tool instead of holding this repeat offender responsible for his actions.
Right. And I would say it's much easier to blame the tool than to inject light into the darkest parts of Chicago
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing about
instead
that.
of building mentorship programs to actually change the way some of these young men think.
Here's the thing with that. They claim to have these programs in place and they give funding, right? But these are ex
Mm.
convicts and friends of theirs who are running these programs. They're just washing cash through these programs because,
Sounds corrupt.
of course, it is. Because here's the thing, the numbers speak for themselves. You just said you gave $1 million to this organization, which is a
Geez, I
some
wish.
sort of stop the violence prevention organization, and yet the numbers and the statistics are through the roof. So what did they prevent? What violence did they
So
prevent?
was this program called BLM
Oh
or
no, no,
which one was
BLM is
this
just
one?
a whole nother. Let, let me make
That's a
no,
joke.
no.
I was
Let me
joking,
make one
but
thing clear for the people. And when I say for the people, I'm talking about black people. Black people, I'm talking to you right now. So you can get mad all you want. Black Lives Matter is not for you. The organization is white, elite, anti American, anti freedom, anti self defense billionaires that hates you. Wake up. That's real talk. Real talk. Because on the surface, BLM sounds good mentally. If you run it through their mind,
yeah.
Black Lives Matter. They got their fist up. They all in the street kneeling and all of this. And then here's come George Soros. You find out the old white man that hate you and your color, no matter who you are, whether you're white, black, Latino, Mexican, red, white, blue, pink, whatever. He cares less. The goal is to destroy America. That's the underlay for the overplay. But they naive and they can't see that. So anything happened to a black person, oh my God, it's to the streets we go. Let's burn down this neighborhood. Let's break into this store. Let's rob something, something, something. And every night you sit in the house and hear someone get shot outside, peek out the window, see the shooter, see them running away, skid off in the car, and don't report nothing.
Mm.
I don't play those games.
That's the part that
I
hurts
don't
because
support
there's a
Black
lot
Lives
of
Matter.
kids getting killed.
I don't support the organization that renders the finances to destroy this country, which is the elite, the Rockefellers, the Bloombergs, the Charles Schwabs, the Soros. Those people are the ones I'm talking about. But this is something that the youth would never know about. They don't understand. Black Lives Matter got millions of dollars. The people that they use as the face, and the
Mm-hmm.
black community got nothing. And they're never gonna get anything. They're just pawns in this game. They don't know it though. They don't know it though. So I
It's
have to keep it
unfortunate.
real. I'm old school. I have to keep it real. Because don't come to me about nothing. Because I know what you stand for and I know where you're getting your money from. And I know the alternative,
Mm-hmm.
the alternative goal is to destroy this country from within. These are facts.
Yeah, it's beyond documented that the money that was given to that org got funneled into this organization and that, and the DNC and all that. And I'm like, wait, I thought we were trying to make it so that police violence occurred less, if not. I'm like, you can't. How does politics play into that? I'm confused.
Here's how. They want you to believe that they support you as they allow you to destroy your community. And then on the back end, they say, let's defund the police. And so if there's no police involved, there's no one there to call in case someone needs help. What do you think is going to happen in any city in this country? It's going to be all chaos. That is what they want. They got it a couple years ago. To a certain extent, it was allowed. It shouldn't have never been allowed. And I don't care what party did it, who did it. It's wrong. And they're lying to the youth,
Right.
and the youth don't have a clue about it. So they don't know about the upper echelon of the political game with the elite billionaires who just want this country. You see what I'm saying? If they can get this country and put it on a string and we be their little puppets, oh my God. Well, they got Joe and they got a few more other people because he's not doing it by himself. You see what I'm saying? This is in cahoots politically to destroy this country because there's no way within less than 2 years or that we are in a situation that we are in this country. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. It doesn't matter what political affiliation you're with, whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, a libertarian, a Green Party, or whatever the case may be. Be smart enough to understand what's going on around you. Know when you're being lied to. At least.
I think that's so important.
At the least. Understand that you're losing no matter who's in office. Because it's structured that way. These insiders have destroyed, and it's not one party that has destroyed this country because some people have to go along with it in order for it to format, right?
Right.
So it's not just one said group of people. It's just a lot of greed. Greed.
And I hope I've been vocal on this, but if not, let me just say it again. I don't care what party you feel like you're most attached to. Identify wrong, call it
Absolutely.
out. Because evil is evil.
Absolutely.
If people look at the situation with Mr. Floyd, and they're making a documentary, and there's other people debunking it. I don't care what you think you represent. If you see somebody doing wrong, call it out.
You have to.
If it's your rock star president that you love and he does something wrong, call it out.
No one is
if the president you hate
being called out for wrongdoing. And these are facts. And a lot of people have a tendency to lean one side more than the other. I keep it smack dab in the middle. You know what I'm saying? Because, like I said, we have a lot of things that I don't like with our current president. He's not fit to run this country. That is a fact. The previous president, I didn't like the fact that we did not get national reciprocity when he had control of the Senate and the House and the presidency. That was an epic failure on the behalf of that administration. These are facts.
In fact, I think we actually went backwards if you look at bump stocks and comments on suppressors.
This is where you understand where when people know that there's a lot of votes in the 2A community. And so they will tell you, I support the Second Amendment, but they're not wholeheartedly a 2A individual to the core. You see what I'm saying? And so when we see, okay, here's a prime example. We saw Dr. Oz do something for Pennsylvania. Then he started his campaign, and then he started to shoot a rifle or something. That was like a little sign of hey, Second Amendment community, vote for me, right? But do I think Dr.
Hmm.
Oz is a diehard Second Amendment person? No,
Probably don't
no, I
know
don't.
the first or the last thing about guns
I
for real.
don't. But his opponent is clearly not fit for office. You follow me?
Yeah,
And
it's
so
hard to
you
watch.
have to, it is, and you have to call it out when you see it. You know, I don't care what political party you are part of. You have to, the individual you, have to be smart enough to know the difference, right? Don't get sucked up into the politics of things because at the end of the day, they still get paid on the back end. That's why
It's a
that
lot of
money is
money in
flying over to
politics.
Ukraine. And it's a lot of them
Yeah.
involved. You see what I'm saying? And so,
Mm.
again, it's up to us to be educated, to make sure that we understand what's going on around us. Because at the end of the day, no one is going to be there when SHTF happens. Okay, they have a plan. That's why they've been funneling this money. They think that it's not going to affect them. It will. Because I don't see you selling out America to China and Russia, and you still think you're going to have a place in the cabinet to dictate something. Like, that doesn't make sense. You're going to be like Ukraine, who gave up their rights to another country, right? That's why they get stepped on now. These are facts.
Yeah.
I'm not giving up my
Yeah.
guns.
No, keep them.
That's a fact.
Last question, and then we'll call it. Um, how? Let's see if we can't frame this. There are a lot of decent human beings out there that they see what happens. They see tragedies, tragedies where children are hurt, bad stuff happens, someone spins the block, like just crazy stuff occurs with the tool. It's a tool called a firearm in whatever make and model, whether it be a fully automatic Glock or an AR-15 or something like that. And their heart hurts and they're like, they become, first they weren't really into guns. They didn't like it, but they didn't mind. And now they're staunchly against it. They're willing to vote. How do you interact with people like that? How do you, I suppose, fix your mind to, do you care about reaching people like that, or what's your mindset when it comes to the anti-gun American who they're coming from a good place, quote unquote, as in their heart is hurting and they want to see less people hurt?
Well, first of all, let me say about the Glock aspect of things. The only fully automatic Glock was an M18, and that was for the military. It is no longer available. There is no fully automatic Glock available to the citizens. These are
Mm-hmm.
handguns that are being utilized with an extra piece, which is called a switch, and then they alter their firearms to be fully automatic. That's first thing. What I say to any individual that does not feel that they like firearms, that's fine. What I want them to understand is everything isn't about the gun. It's about the mindset. Understand that you do have a right to self-defense, but also understand that if the firearm is not your choice of that defense, that's fine too. But know that when you make the 911 call, if you get the opportunity to, because the bad guy may not let you get that call, they may not show up. And it's still going to be you and the bad guy before you even get the opportunity to dial 911. But understand, because you choose to not protect your life and the life of your loved ones, do not be mad at others because they choose to do so. These are our human rights. These are inalienable rights. Whether or not you want to protect yourself in that manner is fine with me. I don't get mad with people who smoke and drink. I just don't indulge. If it's not something that you're willing to do, don't prevent others. Don't try to put a roadblock in front of other people to prevent them from doing so. Because we saw in other countries, as we spoke about earlier, how the government maintains control of those individuals once their citizenry is disarmed. So we have to understand that. Yes, the violence is there. I'm not prone to that violence. I've had situations that happen to people in my family. I don't speak about it. That doesn't mean I don't know any of these people that have been shot in this city or even killed in this city. And I post these stories every day on a daily basis. Is that going to stop me from owning a gun? No. I had lost a family member where someone broke in the house and brutally murdered them. And it didn't make me say I'm not going to have a firearm. And we were kids when this happened. I grew up saying that's not going to happen to me. And I made a promise to my loved one moving forward that I would never let anyone put their hands on us, ever. To this day, I've had not a situation. I'm 55 years old. I have a granddaughter. She's my range partner. She's been shooting since she was 5. She's 12. I got to get her out to the range. When she goes to college, no, it's going to mean no. But at the end of the day, if owning a firearm is not for you, fine. You don't have to own one. But don't expect for someone to come when you need help. Because at the same token, majority of the people in this country were screaming, defund the police. So if they actually did that, and you needed some assistance, and you still chose not to have a firearm, but the bad guy got one, and he got some more buddies with him, and he got other host of tools and things in his repertoire that he wants to utilize against you and your family and your loved ones, who's coming? I'll just say, just have respect for others, and they should have the same respect for you.
Yeah, that's right. You know, it is really interesting, the concept that many people in this country are against arms. However, if they do need to call for help, men with guns might come help.
You know, that's the part they fail to realize. You know, and the other concept is this: the people that have brainwashed these people to believe that guns are bad are the same people laying in bed with their feet up, with someone sitting outside in a car with 2 or 3 guns and 2 or 3 people surrounding their whole perimeter to make sure they sleep well at night.
Must be nice.
I don't know. You know, like I say, I don't force anything on anyone because I know owning a firearm isn't for everyone. But they also have to understand that just because it's something you choose not to partake in, it doesn't give you the right to say that no one should have these things. Doesn't make sense.
Wow. I know I said last question, but something just popped into my head. And I wanted to end on such a powerful note because you killed it, but it just popped in, and I gotta say. So a goal that I've recently said, shoot, I want to do it. It seems impossible, but we've got to find a way because it's so important. Is I want to basically be the catalyst for 100,000 Americans to become first-time responsible gun owners. And I want to somehow find a way to do that in 3 years.
Oh, you'll do that.
Yes, I think it's possible. It's hard, and that's why I want to do it. Because the easy one would be say, "Oh, we'll do 100 people." Now let's go crazy. What would you say? How do you think
what
we
is
can make it happen?
Your goal? Is your goal to train these people to shoot firearms?
No.
Bring them into the fold of firearm ownership.
I just want to bring them in. I just want to bring them in and make sure that they're on the path to being responsible, safe, smart, capable.
So what you do, wherever you are in your state, find a location that you can rent out, a little small space where you can set up where people can come in and you can do a soft engagement, speaking engagement. Because you're not giving classes and courses, but you want to have some sort of small conference. Doesn't have to have 100 people to distribute the information, but you can have 100 people or 50 people at a time there. If you did that twice a week or once a week for 2 years, you would have a lot of people, right? So the way you want to engage is You market and promote it on social media, right? You find this outlet.
Mm-hmm.
You can say, okay, on Wednesday nights, we're going to be here from 4 to 6, right? Or whatever time slots you want to utilize. You can even bring in guest speakers, right? Because it's about the knowledge, right? Free education, right?
Yeah.
Because social media is that tool that's going to do the instant gratification of marketing for you, right? You do a
Mm-hmm.
lot of social media. I'm old school, I don't do too much, but you have the Facebook, Twitter, the Instagram, the Twitch, the whatever else out there that's going on, and that's your marketing tool, right? Because you already have a platform. You have your podcast, and you're doing it via social media. You find this place, and you say, okay, boom, there's a studio here. I can rent this place out, or I can go in there and ask them, can I rent this room for 2 hours, right? Make it like a month in advance, like
Yeah.
boom. So now you get to come back and say, next month on this date, we're going to do a firearm safety training introduction, right? And
Mm-hmm.
this is free. And you're going to have a little sign up, or have you do it to get people to come. And that's in your neighborhood, right? Once you get known, people will come. We used to do it a long time ago here in Chicago, years ago. That's when people was afraid to even say that they had guns. We
Yeah.
had a few people that came out, but they didn't stick. It didn't stick. And that's when people continued to believe that you couldn't own a gun in Chicago. When Mr.
Mm.
McDonald was alive, we used to go to the L stations, the bus stations, pass out literature, stand there and talk to the people as they get off the buses and trains, and invite them to one of our meetings that we would have like once a month or
Mm-hmm.
something to get the knowledge about firearm ownership. Now in Chicago, it didn't really stick because again, people, you'll never carry a gun in Chicago. You see what I'm saying? They had that mentality. And we were like,
The narrative
watch.
was written. Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
right in the midst of Mr. McDonald filing the lawsuit for the right to own a gun in the home. And people was like, y'all crazy. Now, we talking about black people. Now, we on
Mm-hmm.
95th Street at the one of the most prominent L stations in Chicago, and these people are telling us you're crazy. But what we did was we established a location. We printed out flyers. See, this was before all this social media, right? We had to hand do this. Walk out, people balling up your paper, throwing. Now we got to clean up.
Ooh.
Really? But we was old school. You got to remember, we're
Right.
I've been doing this 12 years. So I was in my 40s when I started this. We didn't have social media existed, but it wasn't my thing and it wasn't our thing. So we were
Yeah.
literally passing it out. So what you're going to need to do is find an outlet where you can bring people into the fold to speak about, even if you started it online, a
Yeah.
space. But you want to touch the people, touch their heart. You want to touch the people. And I would, again,
Yeah.
I would point you in the direction of Mosh Teray because he's great at that.
Yeah. That's what Mosh does right
Yeah,
now.
Mosh does it right now. And he's great at it.
Yeah. Mosh has been killing it.
Absolutely.
I got to talk to Mosh.
Absolutely. Mosh, my granddaughter like this.
Hey, maybe we can get Mosh to come on and talk about what he's been doing up
Absolutely.
in
I'm quite sure you can.
his
All
great
you got to
state.
do is go to his blackgunsmatter.com.
Mm-hmm.
Go to his website, send him an email,
Yeah.
and just tap in. You don't have to like. So, like I said, his email there, or you can go through his social media pages and send him an email. He'll respond.
There you go.
So
Well, I appreciate that.
and he'll give you
Yeah.
some great pointers on what you could do to get it started. But
Yeah.
like I say, basically the same thing.
Yeah. Well, Maj has been killing it, and you've been killing it. But how can people tap in with you? Are you working on anything that people can contribute to?
Well, you know what?
I know you're not a big donations person, but can people give to the work? Like, how can people?
We've never accepted a
partner with
dime
you?
from anyone. We've never asked for anyone to give us finances. The moral of the story here is, I want someone to build a gun range in this city for the people. Right?
For the people.
I don't want people to say that I gave her some money and nothing happened. Right? Because it's going to take millions and millions of dollars. You know how long it'll take for somebody to donate me $6 million? trying to help me
And
in that manner, right? But let's be realistic here. I'm not that person that because I'm Black and the work that we've done, I'm not going to be out here trying to grift people. You know what I'm saying? Or finesse
people
anyone.
will do that.
You know, that's
People
not
will
who
do
I
that.
am. So if they want to help us, find your rich friend in the Second Amendment community and ask them to take the foundation that we've built, Ezell versus City of Chicago, Ezell versus City of Chicago 2, and build that gun range for the people in this great city. We have over 1 million people in the state with a FOID card. We have over 350,000 individuals with a concealed carry license. If you want to do something different, when you continuously talk about, oh, where they don't get involved and the Black community needs to do more to get involved in firearm ownership, build a brick and mortar facility so that they can come out and continue their firearm safety training and education. I don't have $6 million. I'm not going to try to grift nobody out of $6 million. But I will ask you to ask someone to take advantage of the work that we've done. Because I would love to be the first one with my granddaughter to walk through those doors. That's how you strike a quarrel with the political powers that be. You do more than win the cases. Sit that brick and mortar gun range on top of that foundation and let it work. That's work.
And now it's possible because of the work that you guys did. So on behalf of the people who are rooting for gun rights in America and for people of Illinois to be able to take their rights seriously, and the people of Chicago to actually change the whole narrative, we're rooting for you.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, we have ranges in the state, but we want to set this precedent so high that not only did we win the cases, make history in the United States of America, set a precedent, and cases are cited across the country. Boom, there's a gun range here, sitting right smack dab in the middle of, boom, this city where people think people don't carry guns. And that's the work.
People can get trained. People can be safe and responsible. It changes the whole narrative. Because then it goes from, oh, it's just a bunch of thugs carrying guns to like, hey, there's responsible citizens out here.
That's all I've been saying.
Ready to defend their lives.
I've been saying this for a very long time now. And it's time that people, I don't know what's preventing them. But I will say that it's welcoming if they did. It would be welcoming if they did. There's nothing that's stopping them. We've done that work. And we will gladly we will be glad to have someone to bring us that first brick and mortar gun range.
I'm here for it. Well, Rhonda, thank you so much for coming on. Was there anything more that you needed to share before we hop on out of here?
Oh, no. Well, they can just catch me at ms_EZELL on Twitter, Rhonda Ezell at Facebook. I'm not too active on Instagram or anything like that. And follow our work. We're doing the work that we're keeping our country free for everyone.
I'm here for it. And on behalf of everyone here, thank you for coming on, sharing your story. And of course, for those who don't know, go to the Chicago Guns Matter website. Read about what happened. Just take a look. There's some really good, quick stories, and share it. I think so often we get caught up on like, is this a 60-second or 30-second video on Instagram? Share the stories, even word of mouth. Share what's already been done.
Absolutely.
And of course, everyone listening, watching, please share this video. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe. And of course, keep it costly.